Welcome to the AMSA board meeting for May of 2021. This is a virtual meeting. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:43. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the Facebook page. And I'd like seeking volunteers for a timekeeper.
You know, Roger, it would be my last time if I wanted to run out my.
You got one more meeting.
Do I? Isn't this my last?
No, June.
Sorry, Jess.
Sorry, Jess. You got to stick it out for one more.
Do it. You should still be the timekeeper.
I heard you volunteer.
I will be the timekeeper.
Excellent. And at the end of this meeting, we will be entering into executive session to discuss the purchase or lease of real estate, and we will not reconvene. And I think we are ready to open the meeting. Liz, is there people who wish to have public comment?
I did not have any. I'll double check one more time, but as of before our training, I had not received anything. And I still do not have anything. So no, I don't have anyone. If there's anyone on the line that could let us know.
Anybody on the line that wishes to participate in public speak? Hearing none. Excellent. So on to the voting portion of the meeting. The first vote is for the approval of the board meeting minutes from April 2021.
Did we do roll call already?
Oh, no. Do you want me to do that, Roger?
Certainly.
Oh, no, they have to, are they supposed to say their name or do I call and they say yes?
I think we just need, I don't know what our process is. I think we just need to, that you just need to take attendance to see that
Okay.
we.
Okay.
Do you have?
Isn't it enough to look at Zoom? Or do we need to explicitly say that we're here?
No, I believe that we just need, that Sarah just needs to take attendance of the board members.
We need to, so people who can't see, this is the way the open meeting law is reading now, that you have to speak it so that if they can't see names, they can hear who's there.
Got it.
So Ben Hamill,
Yes.
Jess Bowen,
Yes.
Jill Schaefer,
Yes.
Kristen Carney,
Yes.
Liz Saul,
Yes.
Maura Webster,
Yes.
Nick Poirier,
Yes.
Raul Puars,
Present.
Roger Jarrett,
Present.
Sheila Kelly,
Here.
Salmini Sampath,
Yes.
all present.
I will add that as one of the, as part of the opening meeting going forward.
Do you want me to mention, guess the people who are here, the ED, those people?
You could record that in the minutes, but
Okay, it's done.
so we're back to votes. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes for the April 29th meeting, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Raul, second by Liz. Any discussion before we vote? Hearing no discussion. Sarah, would you call the roll, please?
Ben Hamill,
Yes.
Jess Bowen,
Yes.
Jill Schaefer,
Yes.
Kristen Carney, Kristen, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Yes, just trying to find my button.
Liz Saul,
Yes.
Maura Webster,
Yes.
Nick Poirier,
Yes.
Raul Puars,
Yes.
Roger Jarrett,
Yes.
Sheila Kelly,
Yes.
Salmini Sampath.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Second, first I'd like is the second vote is to accept the trustee nomination of the faculty representative for next year, covering the July 2021 to June of 2022. First, I'd like to give Zach a couple minutes to introduce himself to the board, and congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you very much, and hello everyone. My name is Zach Oglesby. I am a lower school Latin teacher at AMSA. I teach currently grades 7 and 8, but next year I'll be teaching 6th and 8th grade. I've been teaching Latin now for 2 years, full-time at AMSA, both years of my teaching. Did an undergraduate with a bachelor's in classical languages, Latin and ancient Greece at Haverford College in Pennsylvania. Did my master's of arts with a teaching certification at University of Washington in St. Louis. A couple things about me, just to know who I am. Have worked 6 years in professional kitchens, both bakeries and restaurants. 2 of those years as a sous chef. Loved cooking, almost went to culinary school. Decided I liked teaching classics more. Still love to cook. And big fan of fantasy, role-playing games, things like that. Really looking forward to serving with you all, being the conduit from the faculty. It's an absolute honor to be serving this position, and I am very excited to get to know you all over the next year.
Yay.
Hey, thank you. So at this point, I'd like a motion to accept Zach Oglesby as the faculty rep for next school year.
So moved by Sheila.
Moved by Sheila,
Second.
second from Maura. Sarah, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Okay. Ben Hamel,
Yes, welcome aboard.
Jess Bowen,
Enthusiastically.
Jill Schaefer,
Yes.
Kristen Carney,
Yes.
Liz Saul. Liz Saul.
I think we lost Liz. I don't
We
see-
lost her temporarily.
Okay, I'll just keep going. Maura Webster,
Yes.
Nick Poirier,
Yes.
Raoul Porce,
Yes.
Roger Jarrett,
Yes.
Sheila Kelly,
Yes. Welcome, Zach.
Salmini Sampath,
Yes. Welcome, Zach.
and Liz Saul. Liz?
This is frozen.
Uh,
I think you would just have to, due to technical difficulties, you could just record it as no vote.
all right.
Given that challenge, we'll rearrange things slightly and have Liana and Kristen introduce the budget for next year.
Roger, could we just allow Bella to just welcome Bella and explain the process on that, since she's here with us tonight?
Well, certainly. Yes, so Bella has been nominated by the PTO as the parent representative to the board. Maura, I don't know if you'd like to do more of the introduction. It just, from a timing perspective, we just didn't make it onto the agenda for an official vote. So
Right.
we'll vote next time, but everything else will be the same.
Excellent. I don't have much more of an introduction. I actually spoke with Bella earlier and asked her if she would just kind of do the same thing Zach did. And like you said, Roger, we will take it up at the next meeting for an official vote. So Bella, I'm super excited that you are the next representative. So go ahead and tell us a little bit more about you.
Great, thanks. Good evening, everyone. My name's Bella Gorman. I have 2 children at AMSA. I have a 6th grade son and a sophomore daughter. I'm just coming off a 2-year term on the PTO as their treasurer, where we did a lot of, we never filed for taxes. We never filed for nonprofit status. So we did a lot of those things these past few years. So it was great. It was very rewarding. But I'm really looking forward to now kind of bridging that parent community and the board, and really looking forward to, I think there's some exciting times in the next few years for AMSA, and I'm would love to be a part of that. As far as professionally, I'm a health actuary. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a lot of math and a lot of modeling, working for health insurance companies. And I actually have my own company, and I help state government with health policy.
Another little fun fact is that Bella and I, our kids have gone to school since nursery school together. So we've actually known each other for a really long time. So it's been a fun adventure.
Well, welcome, Bella. I'm excited to have you join the board. Has Liz resolved her technical difficulties yet? Not yet. So, given that, we'll move to the budget presentation. So the purpose of this is to approve the budget for the 2021-2022 school year with a couple of exclusions, which will be explained by Liana and Kristen. So I'd pass the baton to Liana and Kristen at this point.
Right. I'll hold on while I share my screen here. And I have to be given permission to share my screen.
I think Mike has to give it to you because I think Sarah made him the host.
Go ahead and try now, Kristen.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry about that.
Okay. No worries. All right. Is that visible to everyone? Yes. Oh, great. Thanks, Roger. I can see Roger. I can't see everyone yet. This is as we're co-presenting, and Leanna and I hadn't coordinated that in advance. So Leanna, if it's okay with you, I'm going to start with the first couple of slides, and you can jump in on the detail slides.
Okay, sounds good.
We can wrap it up. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is the budget presentation. We are going to have multiple budget reviews and approvals this year, but let's go through the assumptions on this one. So this year's budget approval, this meeting's budget approval is for a baseline operations budget only. The challenge that we face this year is that we have a couple of big projects that are going underway. One is the building and renovations and whatnot that are in process. They're so in process that we don't have enough facts to be able to forecast with reasonable certainty a budget for them. And the second is that we are about to undergo a collective bargaining arrangement negotiation, and also similarly, we don't have reasonable assurance of what to expect, that we will have a budget review in the fall, in the early fall, once some of those items are locked down. Another very notable point of this year's budget, as you will see when we get into the next slide, is that the FY22 budget is based on a full year in-person operating school year versus 21, which was, of course, remote, as we know. As a result of that, the expenses were quite a bit lower, and we actually had some other revenue from grants associated with the COVID programs that drove up some of our revenue figures. So those items are going to make the comparables to the actuals of the fiscal 21 year look kind of extreme compared to 22. But that's because of the way the fiscal school year is going to operate this year versus last. So as a result, as I mentioned, we will have another budget review in the fall, but this is core operations of the school that we've reviewed. So if we don't have any questions, I'm going to go on to the summary. So this year in 2022, what we do is break down into the highest level components, summarized where the bulk of the effort comes from on both revenue and expenses. So you can see, materially speaking, what is equal to the budget. For 2022, we're budgeting tuition of $14.9 million, and that is a 4% increase over last year. We still have, again, this is an item which we get updates regularly from the state. And so as Leanna gets into how we calculated this, you'll get more information on how we came up with the tuition number. Student programs makes up another significant portion of the revenue. That's revenue that's generated from fees, activities, etc. Grants and donations, obviously, we went over that a couple of meetings ago. A significant amount of work goes into bringing those together, rental and other income, for a total revenue of $16.4 roughly $1 million, a 5.7% increase over 2021. And you can see where the decrease is in grants and donations. Again, that's related to some of the federal funding that we had, and Leanna has more detail on the next slide. And we're expecting student programs to be back to normal. So you can see that that's one where we would have more revenue coming in, as we are now going to be in person full time. On the expense side, quite clearly, salary and benefits is the most significant expense line item that we have. Again, this is a cost of living increase for some, and Leanna will get into the details there, but it's a $600,000 increase so far, or 6%. And a lot of that is attributable to benefits. Facilities costs are budgeted for a slight increase. Again, a lot of that is due to being back in person. Student programs and supplies really parallels with the revenue up above, and other operating costs are everything else that we have, legal, administration, overhead, and whatnot. And again, that's quite a bit higher as a result of the way we are changing our operating format this year versus last. So total expenses are 16.1 versus 14.4 is our estimate for 2021 this year, and that's a 13% increase. And again, that's primarily due to being back in person. So the net surplus that we're seeing under this operations as is budget is $184,000. Again, that's significantly lower than 2021, but that's because, again, we had significant savings in expenses. And the 184 in profit is relatively consistent with other budget years that we've had. We try to spend all the money that we have and be as realistic as possible within the budget process. So Leanna is going to jump into some of the detail around the revenue and the expense categories.
Is this the whole slide, Kristen? I'm not seeing the total for some reason.
Can you see it now?
No, the last line I see is
total.
technical difficulties.
I see the whole slide. So
You do?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, maybe
Right
you
down
want
at
to
total.
open your own copy.
Hold on.
No one will see the whole thing.
right down to total revenue.
Maybe if I put it on my bigger screen here. Oh, I can do that. Shoot. Okay, well.
Here, let's see.
Okay, so
I can make this smaller from the.
no, huh? Okay, well, how about this? I'll go to other and then you can finish because that's all I could see. So tuition, as Kristen said, we're budgeting very conservatively. We're budgeting 14.893, which is 1%. It's a 1% increase over the third quarter from this year. So very, very conservative there, as opposed to, whoops, I just lost it. Did everybody lose it or just me?
We all lost it. So I think maybe if you,
I lost it a long time ago.
can you share yours, Liana, instead of Kristen's?
Yeah. Well, bear with me a second. I got to find the file first.
I believe we may have lost Kristen as well in that transaction there. So it's a good thing she passed the baton to you.
Okay, let's see. Am I able to share? Slideshow. Can you guys all see that?
Uh, we-
Your browser, board on track.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone. The internet went down here.
You're, Leanna, you're right now, you're showing the agenda from Board on Track. It was there a second ago.
It was? I moved it to my other screen. All right, let's see.
Yeah, and disappeared.
How about now?
Yeah, just can you put it in present mode so that it opens up?
Oops. Okay.
Well, thank you.
All right, let's see. Oops. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Back in business. Sorry about that. Okay, so we talked about tuition.
Sorry, everyone.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, I'm just letting everyone know I'm back. My whole network went down there for a second.
It's okay. Okay, so tuition basically is a 1% increase from the Q3 of fiscal 21 tuition that has been presented to us. Grants and donations. The reason why that is so much lower than the previous year is we received in 2021 $280,000 in COVID-related grants, which was very useful. Student programs. The reason why you'll see a huge variance there is because we were in a remote learning setting for the majority of this year. So next year we're projecting on a full in-person year. And the same as food services. So you'll see that last year we're projecting 15,000, which is basically for 2 months of the school year, versus next year 132,000. Again, athletics, same thing, 90,000 versus 209,000 in this next fiscal year. Rental income remains constant. Student transportation, we're expecting that to go back to normal based on a full in-person year. And other, that's a little bit less because the interest rate has gone down. So we went from 36,000 to 26,000 for a total revenue budgeted for next year, $16.3 million. Any questions?
Yeah, just to make sure I understand what you mean by student programs, is that clubs and extracurricular things that weren't happening because of remote?
Yep.
Got it. Makes sense.
Okay. Okay, on the expense side, as Kristen mentioned, salaries and benefits are our biggest number. In the FY22 budget, we increased that number by 2.8 FTE positions, which means that there's 2 full-time and a 0.8 of a full-time position to be added next year. And there was a 5% increase in the medical benefits and a cost of living adjustment for the administrative staff. That number does not include anything for the protective personnel. Instructional supplies, again, basing that on a full year in-person learning versus the 183 that you see previous year. So that's a substantial increase. Professional development, we're hoping to get that back up to 189,000. Basically, that's $1,500 per teacher for the school year. Student program expense, also based on full in-person learning, as well as food services and athletics and transportation. Facilities basically includes lease payments, utilities, real estate taxes, and information technology. So that's a good size number there as well. And other operating is basically our insurance, depreciation, office supplies, legal, accounting, and those things. For a total expense of $16,175,000. Any questions on that? Kristen, do you want to do the balance sheet?
Oh, keep going. You're doing great. Why don't you go ahead and keep going through it?
So this is where we are anticipating our assets and liabilities are going to be sitting at the end of June 30th, 22 and June 30th, 21 as well. We're hoping to have a cash balance of a little over 9 million. Again, this doesn't assume any building related purchases or anything like that, any build outs. Accounts receivable, pretty much the static. Other current assets includes prepaid expenses, things like that. Fixed assets, 4,795,000, and other assets, that's just a security deposit we have. For total assets, 14,700,000, and again, liabilities, that's our accrued payroll and accrued accounts payables, things like that, 1,640,000, and for an equity of 13 million. So that's where we're planning on being at the end of June 30th, 22, without the assumption of union negotiations or purchase of buildings.
Right. So as everyone would expect, the cash balance has been building for specifically the building related items that we've been talking about. And those will change pretty substantially. If anything is going to change, it's going to really be that line item and the fixed assets line item, right? One's going to move from one to the other. And that we will have again in the fall once we get more information that gives us the better opportunity to really predict and forecast what those numbers are going to be once we lock that all down. So that's the last one. One more.
This is just our proposed capital budget for next year versus what we had planned for this year and implemented. We replaced wireless access points. That's the Wi-Fi connects to all the computers. We replace about a third of those every single year. Some firewall upgrades, some network monitoring. We replace about a third of the staff laptops every year, and one computer lab refresh every year. Laptops. Oh, there's a computer lab that has laptops, so we're going to replace those. Projector upgrades, that's a yearly thing that we do as well. Just go through a few classrooms and upgrade all of their projectors. Chromebook carts, those are for the students. This will bring us pretty close to 1-to-1 next year. And we don't have any facilities improvements right now because of what we're doing with the buildings. So for a total of 297,000.
Right, so very consistent capital spend this year versus last year, again, excluding the building purchases and renovations. So this is the budget that we are presenting. We have gone through it on the Finance Committee with a fine-tooth comb over the last several meetings, and we are recommending that the board approve this budget. Leanne, I don't know if I want to go back to the first. Oh, you're not sharing anymore. So we're recommending that the board approve this operating budget. Again, contingent on a refresh of the budget once we have locked down the other assumptions around the building renovations purchase and collective bargaining negotiations that are set to happen over the next several months. So if anyone has any questions on the budget, we certainly would love to take those at this time.
Just a question on the timing of that. So do we expect that to happen in the fall after the school year starts, or I guess it all depends on our timeline for them.
It does. It depends on when we, complete all of the negotiation on the building, purchase and renovations, and we have enough information to do that. But we're targeting fall for that. Yes, we'll do it as soon as we can, but we're targeting fall. There's going to be all the work associated with that. There's still quite a bit of planning, and then we'll get that information delivered to the finance committee, and then we'll have to turn that into a budget. And I expect that we're going to have quite a bit of work to do around that, so that we can make sure that everything is reasonable and covered. And so that itself will take probably a month to do with some extra work for the finance committee, and then we will be able to present that. So, realistically, October, just to set expectations. Again, we don't know what we don't know, but that's what our target date is. Well, good question.
Thank you.
So if there's no other questions, can we entertain a vote? Roger, I don't know if you want to officially.
I will. So first, thank you to Liana and Kristen for putting this together. This is a first attempt for sort of a different way to present the budget to the board. I think we'll seek feedback on it, or provide feedback to Liana and Kristen on that. But so other questions for the finance committee? Okay. Hearing none, I'd take a motion to approve the budget as described. Again, this does not include the, again, there's two big things that are open on this, is the purchase of the building and the negotiation with union personnel. So we will be, as we just reemphasize that we will be revisiting it with more data as it arrives. But with that
This is
caveat,
the operation budget. Yep, standard operating budget for the school year.
a motion to approve from,
Motion to approve.
was that Ben?
It was.
All right.
I'll
And
second.
Second from Nick. Sarah, would you call the roll, please?
You're on mute, Sarah.
Okay. Ben Hamel,
Yes.
Jess Bowen,
Yes.
Jill Schaefer,
Yes.
Kristen Carney,
Yes.
Liz Saul,
Yes.
Maura Webster,
Yes.
Nick Poirier,
Sorry, my mouth was full. Yes.
Raul Porras,
Yes.
Roger Jarrett,
Yes.
Sheila Kelly,
Yes.
Salmini Sempeth.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Last vote is to nominate Liz Saul for a second term as a trustee to the board. Her current term ends at June 30th of this year, and it will be for a one-year term, because that would reach at the end of 7 years. This has already been approved by finance. I got finance on the brain. This has already been this nomination has already been approved by governance, and we're seeking a vote to from the board to confirm this.
Since it's Liz's fault that I am on this board, I'm going to motion for Liz's term to be extended as Roger just described.
Second.
Second. So Raul, second by Ben. Sarah, call the roll, please.
I will. Okay, Ben Hamel,
Yes.
Jess Bowen,
Yes.
Jill Schaefer,
Yes.
Kristen Carney,
Yes.
Liz Saul,
I'll abstain.
Maura Webster,
Yes.
Nick Poirier,
Yes.
Raul Porras,
Yes.
Roger Jarrett,
Yes.
Sheila Kelly,
Yes.
Salmini Sempeth.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Liz, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
So I believe we have completed the vote section of the agenda. We'll be moving on to the reports, starting with Ellen with the Executive Director report.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the support on the budget. It helps us get things moving and ready for next year. So I am going to share my screen with you. Second. All right, let's try this. I had that shared on another slide. I thought that was going to work. Okay. There we go. All righty. So want to welcome everyone out this evening, and thank you for joining us for our earlier session. Today is a very special day for many reasons. First of all, it was our seniors' last day of school, and that was exciting. And they were very happy. They had a wonderful luncheon, and I have a couple pictures from that, but if you're interested more, there's all kinds of photos and video on the Facebook page. But it is also Maura's birthday. Happy birthday, Maura. How are you? Should we sing happy birthday to you?
No, you're good. Thank you. Thank you.
So happy birthday, and thank you so much for spending your birthday evening with us. It is certainly beyond expectation, so thank you.
Couldn't think of a better way to do it. I will say that the girls made cake, but there's not enough to share.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for being the awesome, wonderful person that you are. So happy birthday, and thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so first once again, we're at the end of the year, but every day is a day to say thank you and express gratitude for all the wonderful things that we have in our lives, including this wonderful school. Quick update on MCAS and all the glories of that this year. Talking a little bit about administrative switches that we're going to be doing for beginning July 1st, and show that to you. I will say that at this very moment that if I had two minutes to hit a send button, there would be a video that would have gone out to staff, which has not gone out to staff yet because I've been back to back all day. So this is new information out there, and then I will follow up with the video when we finish here tonight. A little bit of razzle dazzle time and some of the updates on the upcoming events. So, once again, thank you to all of you, first of all, but also to our faculty and staff at the school. It has been kind of an amazing and crazy 16 months, right, for all of us. And it certainly has been for educators. And I think one of the most difficult parts about being an educator during the last 16 months was that we were on the national stage of debate. And it's a difficult place to be when everywhere you look, people are debating what you're doing and if it's right or it's wrong. We, as faculty and staff and adults of AMSA, try to do the right thing every step of the way. None of it ever could have been done without the team of people that we have working at the school. So I want to thank everyone, staff, every adult, and of course every student we have and family member and all of you for persevering through this most difficult time. It was so difficult to predict. I was saying to Anders the other day that it almost feels like it's October and that remote learning never existed. Now that we're fully immersed back at school again, it's like there's another big gap. And so, each one of us has had to persevere through that. And also, thank you to everyone for being so dedicated to our school, to helping us to be AMSA and to have the best school program that we possibly can have. And to all the passion from every level of every person our teachers and the way they teach, the way they love the kids, and our administrators and staff. Every single person that's involved in our school has given their all this year, and it's made all the difference. It really has. Want to thank everyone for their continued support as we now start planning for the fall, which we've been doing for a long time, and also, looking to the future. Right, we're hoping that this is the light at the end of the tunnel. The light just gets bigger and bigger, and we're going to continue to need support from all of you as we continue to learn and grow together. Quick little MCAS update, and along with this is AP, but the calendar on that is so complicated. We're moving right through the AP process, and that will be completed by, I believe, the end of next week. And that's been a huge feat for the school counseling department, for our kids, and for all those that have been involved in that. But MCAS has also been a huge undertaking, run and organized right down to every child, putting every child in a seat in grades 6, 7, 8, 10, and 11, because we needed seating charts. We needed to know who each child was Miss Sarah Snow. And what an amazing job that she did, the hours, the weekends, the nights that she did to make sure that we were ready to get these tests done. So Sarah, thank you. She's just a one-person show with this. On the 17th and 18th, we completed grades 10 and 11. Those were optional for 11th graders for ELA, and 6, 7, 8 ELA and math. We have now completed the 8th grade science, and as of today, we've completed the part of the grade 10 and 11 math. The next part will be tomorrow, and then the biology will be done the 7th and 8th of June. I've seen a lot of different models of the way a lot of different schools did this, and many of them spread them out, or they're still, knee deep in it. And, Sarah made the decision to just kind of rip the Band-Aid off. And we did an amazing, incredible amount of testing between the 17th and the 18th. And our kids came in from school, came into school, those that were remote, many of them. The test was done in classrooms for kids who normally come to school in person, in the cafeteria for those students who opted to come in, who don't normally come in, and also in their homes. So now think about, I just thinking ahead to the data next year, the value of the data without having the stability of testing environment. So just something to keep in mind, because the kids were tested three different ways, if you think of it that way. So if you took the 10th grade class, some of them were in a class that they normally would have been in first period that day. Some of them who usually are at home decided to come in. And once again, there were other students who were home doing a 10th grade MCAS through the browser. So lots going on there. It'll be very interesting to see the data that comes out of that. We've been talking a lot, and one of my goals for this year, for my board goals, was to look at the administrative structure, which has been very, very horizontal for all the years that we've been around AMSA. I think at one point I had at least 15 people who reported to me, so it was very, very lateral, and it was kind of a double job sometimes with all the things that were going on. I was tasked with creating an org chart that would be sustainable for long-term growth and sustainable for me to continue in this position. And it was Raul that suggested a more vertical reporting structure. A lot has happened since I was presented with that goal. One was that we had, COVID happen, and much of the academics that we've had in place over the years have had to be adjusted. We have to continue to focus on academic excellence and include student support in a much more targeted way as we go forward. But also, I've been doing, obviously, spending a lot of my time on the building project. and working with Bob Baldwin, working with the task force, but working with Liana, especially around this facilities project and also development. I've been interviewing development, professional development fundraisers. Each one has told me that 30 to 50% of my time will be spent on development. So it looks like, at least for the next 2.5 years, for as long as I'm in this position, depending on how long that is, I will be focusing on the development and this facilities project. And so we had to find a way that was going to make that more sustainable. So what we've done here is we have added an assistant executive director. For those of you who may not know this already, Dr. Lewis is coming back as my assistant executive director. And what I'm doing here is I'm basically splitting the school in a very distinct line, and that is an academic side and a business side. And there's always been that separation, but I've streamlined it into what I hope is a very clear structure that is really going to give people a focus on this big, huge construction project that we have going on, plus the recovery from COVID and academic excellence and student support. And so Anders will be one of the people that reports directly to me. Mike Naraki will report directly to him. Mike will be focusing on all aspects of the school, but his specialty is academic operations and managing all the folks that will be working with him. Anders' specialty and his sweet spot, as we all know, is academics. And so between that team there, we will be focusing on the academic recovery, streamlining and hopefully reducing the siloing that has happened at times between the different departments, and looking at our community and figuring out how we can continue to hold ourselves to the highest academic standards and provide the support that students need to continue to learn to be healthy and well emotionally and socially. Because we believe very strongly, I believe very strongly, that in order for them to perform at their peak level, they also need to be emotionally healthy. And so we've had a lot of conversations around that. We're going to have, in fact, community-wide conversations that Anders will be leading focus groups of teachers, of students, of parents, anyone in the community who would like to be involved in that conversation throughout the whole next year, to talk about how do we do everything that AMSA does really well, and how do we teach our kids to be well-balanced adults who can work at peak performance. So that's what that side of the org chart will be working on next year. Anders will also be working on all the professional development and mentoring and all of that stuff as well. Mike, as you can see down the bottom, Mike as the principal has the Mike Finkel, Pete Jones under Director of Athletics, Lynn Jarvis, Director of Special Ed, Kate Driver, Director of Counseling, Maureen Searle, Director of Nursing, our new Vice Principal that we've hired, Amanda Sensei, and this Operations Manager position is shared between the two sides of the school. That's Lynn McCluskey, who has been Mike's assistant and who will be now taking over some of the duties that Ann Richards did at one point. So the clear distinction then is the academic side, and then we look over on the business side of things, and we've created a new position, the Director of Finance and Operations, and I would like to formally thank Liana McLaren for accepting that promotion. This will be a big step for her. I am confident that she is going to just flourish in this position. Liana and I have been partnering very closely for the last couple of years, and we work really well together. And so I'm thrilled that she's willing to step up here and to really run interference and organization for me as I move on to the construction project and development. And Liana, you can see under her reporting to her are most of the folks who have been reporting to me over the years, along with some of the folks that are under Mike's side as well. But Eric Lane in facilities, Virginia Burke in HR, Erica Petrusky in IT, Linda Edwards is registrar, community outreach is Mark Vital, and we will be adding a bookkeeper accountant position. It will be a part-time position. What we have found is that with the scope of our construction project, Leanna is constantly getting pulled up, right, and working with Kristen and the board in a much more strategic way than a typical business manager of a school would, right? And so what we're really trying to do here is set ourselves up to be able to really focus on that construction and building project, because we've got to get it right. We've got to get it right. We've got to focus on it, and we can't be split all over the place. And Sarah Snow will also be reporting directly to me. So it will be Anders, Leanna, and Sarah working on that business side of the school, and Mike and Anders on that academic side. You can also see that the department chairs directly report to Mike, who's directly reporting to Anders, and he will be primarily responsible for leading the academics of the school through the department chairs and the faculty, where Mike is more involved in the operations side of that. This is a structure that I see will work well for us, I believe, over the next couple of years while we're working through both construction and academic recovery from COVID. Does anyone have any questions on that, or prefer to take questions at the end? Okay, I will say this is 9 months in the making. I'm extremely excited about it. For the only question that has come up as we've talked to people is, does Anders really want to do this? The answer is yes. He actually came to me and offered when he knew that I was searching and losing a lot of sleep around what was I going to do that was going to make this sustainable, especially as things were working out with our landlord. It became evident that we need to rethink how things were set up. And a little bit of razzle dazzle, and I wish I had a little piece of video for you, Raul, but I don't, unfortunately. So the senior, the PTO and Rebecca Doherty in particular, put together a whole program around senior sponsors this year. And we had the option of participating, and it was like an adopt a senior program. It was wonderful. I had 2 seniors myself, and it was so fun to be able to kind of surprise them with extra little things during the year. I sent them, monthly things so they knew I was thinking about them. We had, it was a lot of fun, and every senior had a sponsor, and these are some of the folks that I just thought I'd add pictures of some of the, we also delivered these signs, their AMSA signs to them. And you can see Lucy there. There's Lucy Ferrante. I just thought maybe some people that you might know. In that burgundy jacket, that is one of our science teachers. That's, oh my gosh, Sarah Mortimer, excuse me, Dr. Mortimer. And then you can see Marty Richardson over in the green pants, and Marty is our English department chair. So just want to share those happy photos with you. It was a fun thing to do, and I believe they're going to do it next year as well. So if you want to participate, you can keep your eye out for that. And then we have the high school quiz show. I watched this. This was awesome. Our students were on the show. AMSA won and goes on to the next level. They'll be playing against Needham on June 5th. And so keep your eye out in the weekly newsletter for the information of when that's going to happen. But this is our team that played. There's also a few students who are alternates. But boy, they did a fantastic job. I was so proud of them. So keep watching that team, because I think they're going to do well this year. They're very, very impressive kids and so much fun. And thank you, Jess Bowen, Jess is the coach and has been coaching for all the years that I've known her, or I've been here. And what a fun group. We had our senior awards night on May, I think it was May 19th. Yep, yes, I'm sorry, somebody's face was over that. And want to just thanks to Bethany Bartolini, Seppi, by the way, Bethany got married, and Aaron McAdams, who are the senior advisors. Lynn McCluskey, of course, was right in there helping them organize all of that. And we did this obviously virtually. And we did a department awards, and we also did the Kia Kaha Award, which Ashley Saar received, and Trey Fricello is our Eagle Award recipient this year. Both the Kia Kaha Award and the Eagle Award each have $1,000 scholarship with them. The PTO also gave out their scholarships that evening as well. The video is on Facebook if you're interested, but once again, it was a quiet night because you couldn't hear anyone clap. But for the fact that we did it remotely, I thought it was quite lovely. Our kids are absolutely amazing and so poised. So today was the last day for seniors, and so we had MCAS this morning, and then the senior, they usually come in for breakfast, but because of MCAS, we had them come in for lunch. And this was also all planned by Brianna Murphy, Mike Naraki, our deans, and obviously Aaron McAdams and Bethany. And they did a fantastic job. The kids were so happy to be together. And you can see they had got their yearbooks and they were signing each other's yearbooks. And they dressed up in green was their color. And then they do a traditional, if you haven't been around AMSA for long, they do a traditional driving around the loop. And we learned pretty quickly that it can get a little hairy. And so a few years ago, Mike Naraki added in a pace car. So he or one of the people get in the orange tractor that we have. And they had the AMSA flags flying on that, and they pace them around the loop so that they're not going too quickly. But it's a fun thing to watch, and they're honking their horns, and they're just so happy and so excited. And we were just so happy we were able to do all of these activities for them this year. We did do something similar for the class last year like this in 2020, but the seniors at least got a little piece, right? They got a little piece this year, and they've been really grateful. I think that they got part of their senior year back. So if you have a minute, once again, Mike Finkel already has all kinds of things up on Facebook. So take a look. It was a fun day. Upcoming events. We have graduation on June 4th, and it's at 4 Kicks. You are more than welcome to attend. We will be sitting down in the grass on the field at 4 Kicks, so you'll need to bring some type of a blanket or a lawn chair with you, but it can't have feet on it. It has to have rounded edges because of the turf. But each one of the board members and you're more than welcome to attend. We also have an 8th grade step up night June 12th. That is a virtual. One of the things I didn't add in here, we have NHS induction also as well coming up, and that is also virtual. We will be having our annual faculty and staff barbecue on June 16th. I'm very excited about that. That will be at the Elks Club in Hudson. And then just wanted to put in a quick plug there for the AMSA golf tournament. And Nick, I don't know if you see that little shout out to Walker Development. There in the center of the photo.
I do. I appreciate you for that. Thank you.
I saw it. I would give Nick a little shout out. So this is pictures from the tournament last year, and our folks the team that's working on this, they have been working on it for months and months and months. So I know this event coming up is going to be awesome. And once again, go Eagles. We persevered. We made it. We made it. I'm so grateful for all of you who had faith in us that we could do this. I'm so grateful for each and every member of our community, all they've given of themselves during times that were extremely trying. It really, it's almost hard to believe. we've all had our challenges, and I would never take that away. But being an educator in the last 16 months has been indescribable. The amount of pressure under that, and how many times we had to redesign schools and redesign policies, and our teachers had to redesign the way they taught over and over and over again. And our kids were isolated, and we were isolated to a point where when we were together again, that felt strange. And but we've all persevered as a community, and I do think that it shows the strength of our school community, and just what an amazing group of people that I am honored every single day to have the opportunity to work with. And so grateful that they continue to, many of them continue to trust us and our team, and we certainly trust, respect, and love them. And so any questions that you have, I'm happy to take them.
I'd like to say for the record that was almost exactly 25 minutes, the time allotted in the agenda. So well done, Ellen.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm learning. Thanks, Jess.
Ellen, I do have a quick question about Anders. Is he going to still teach any classes? And I'm sorry if I missed that in there. Is he going to teach any of his classes?
I'm sorry that that was omitted by me by mistake. One class, I believe it's a 10th grade history class that he will be teaching, and he will still be working with his department. He's already moved into the desk next to me. So.
All right, awesome. And
we're very excited.
Yeah, no, it's an exciting transition for sure. I think there are some students who will probably be disappointed to not have him in the classroom next year. I may know of one in particular. But
interestingly enough, Miss Brianna Murphy is heading back into the classroom and will be teaching A-Push, and she has taught it before. And well, we all know Brianna is a fantastic teacher. Certainly mentored her whole career by Anders. And so I think that they can also look forward to Brianna teaching, because she's wonderful in the classroom.
That's awesome. Awesome news. And just to echo your sentiments, I mean, congratulations to the entire community for a job well done. I don't think many people would necessarily say well done in this kind of environment, but I mean, just excellent job and a well-deserved summer coming up. So.
Thank you very much. I will add too that Anders is he came in under extreme duress before, and he just internally just kind of fought it all along, and was never interested in the business side of things. I think that's him texting me now. Never interested in the business side of things. This is a perfect fit for him. This plays to every strength that he has. And I am completely convinced that he's going to be able to lead the school and academics in the direction that's going to feel right for our community. Well, I'm focusing on other things as well with Leanna.
Other questions for Ellen? Oh, thank you, Ellen, for leading us through this past year. It's been amazing. It's just an amazing job to get us through.
Thank
and
you.
to do it so well.
I've grown a lot. I will say that.
I think we all have, but I see the growth, and I appreciate all the hard work.
Thank you.
So next up, Maura, parent rep report. You're second to last.
Yes. And actually it's very low key. I will say I'm super excited for Bella to come on board. You guys are going to love working with her. And I think she's going to love working with you in this capacity. The one thing I do want to say, the email has been quiet the past couple of weeks. So that's great in this time of transition, back to on-campus in-person learning. And in my role as the sort of parent PTO board involvement in the golf tournament, I do want to I know Ellen just mentioned it, so thank you, Ellen. That is coming up. Registration is open. Foursomes are signing up, which is great. Sponsorships are available. And I would like to ask my fellow board members if they will again consider helping us with the auction, because you guys really gave some amazing auction items last year. And if you remember, the auction is one of the things that actually brought in a significant amount of funds. And so it's exciting. It's going towards research this year, the research program, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And so a great cause from the academic side of the house. So I'll be hounding you individually, but if you want to avoid my hounding, feel free to just reach out. And that's it.
Questions for Maura? Well, thank you, Maura, and happy birthday.
Thanks, Roger.
Next up, Jess.
Hi. I also have had quiet emails, which is always lovely. I just want to kind of take an opportunity to welcome Zach. I'm so glad he came to the meeting today. Zach and I went out to, we were trying for lunch, but then the timing was weird, so it ended up being a breakfast. We had bagels. But anyways, we had a lovely, lovely chat for a while, and we talked about transitioning the role to him. I think he is going to bring a really, he has, unlike me, crusty old me who's been around for a while, Zach has a really sort of new perspective at AMSA, and I think that is going to be very helpful for him in the role. And it's also going to be lovely to, I think, hear from a middle school teacher. I think I bring, although I try and get down to the middle school, it's always kind of harder with those separate buildings that we have. So that's always a challenge. So that's going to be nice for him. And for you, I'm sure he's going to do a great job. And, I gotta say, if you've been out of school 2 years and you run for a position like that, you've got to sort of respect the enthusiasm and willingness to kind of jump in with both feet. So I'm excited about that. So other things about the how things are going with teachers, I would say from what I have heard from teachers, I think teachers have been pleasantly surprised. Last time we met, we had really just opened up, and I think this sort of month has, for a lot of teachers, it went better than they thought. I hear teachers say things like, oh, I thought it was just going to be a disaster, and doing the hybrid and doing this and that. And I think it has not been a disaster. It's certainly challenging. I certainly make mistakes trying to show things on my screen and, doing all of these things. I always feel incompetent when things go wrong. But I think generally speaking, the transition to this model has gone well. And for instance, one of the things I've heard a couple teachers say is, I thought I was going to spend my day constantly policing the kids to put their masks on or make sure they're on right. Almost none of that. Like, the kids were really great about that. Now the governor has lifted some of the restrictions. The kids can be outside during the mask breaks without the masks. That's really been nice. The better weather is really lovely as well. It's been a very busy week with the senior send-off and tying up all the loose ends. Those teachers who have seniors, of course, Sarah, you heard about MCAS, so teachers dealing with MCAS and seniors, those types of things have been keeping teachers hopping these last couple of weeks. But and the end of the year is always hectic, where so that's sort of part of the gig. But we're looking forward to the end of what's been a long year, and it's very exciting to start to imagine that next year might be normal. I mean as normal as we sort of get. I don't think I'm ever really normal, but so we're looking forward to that, and a very restful summer, I think.
Thank you. Questions for Jess? Hearing no questions. On to chair business. Let's see. So I have a couple of task forces to appoint, and then we'll have a update on the survey task force from OWL. So I have two task forces to appoint. The first is Liz, Raul, and myself, which will be the ED Evaluation Task Force. This is a yearly task force that we form to perform the evaluation of Ellen. The second task force is the Union Negotiation Task Force, which will be Jill and myself and Sheila. Sorry. And so those two task forces are official, and Finally, Raul, would you like to give a update on the survey results? I believe it's just the quantitative numbers.
Sure. How much time do I have? Because this whole section is 15 minutes, right?
You have at least 10 minutes.
All right. So I'll try to keep it short. So if you remember from our last meeting, we decided that instead of waiting, so because of the time frame of where the survey was open, we wouldn't have enough time to prepare a full report like we normally do to summarize the findings and review the comments and all that. But instead of sitting on the surveys for another month till our next board meeting, we decided to do it right away on this meeting, even though the survey actually just closed 2 days ago. So we got the results yesterday and they're in the board packet, but I wouldn't blame you if you hadn't read them because we uploaded them today, only a few hours before this meeting. So we didn't want that to get on the way of sharing them broadly with the community. So we put it in the agenda today just to be able to do that. So Mr. Finkel, as soon as this meeting is over, you have the green light to put that on the website or, however normally we share the results. So a couple comments on that other than the timing. Response rates, I would say they're similar to other years, which is less than we would like, but consistent, I guess. 50% of the staff participated, 64 out of 128 staff members, which is the same number that we had in 2019, but a little lower than what we had in 2020. We had 75 in 2020. The family survey, again, similar numbers as previous year, about 19% participation, 250 families. So again, we could have a higher participation, but that goes along, I guess, par for the course on how we participate. I guess one thing we can talk about in the future as we put together the surveys and whatnot, we always try to keep it consistent so we can compare year to year. But the question to ask is, would we have a higher response rate if we made the survey shorter, for example? And if we do, what are the topics that we want to focus on and whatnot? So we don't need to answer that now, but that's something to put in the back of our minds. I think Jess made the comment, since we just had an election for the teacher rep, and welcome Zach, and the participation in that election was also similarly representative, with only 63 teachers out of the 85 voted that were eligible to voted in that election. So is that's something worth exploring? Are we are we asking too many surveys? I know we even considered whether or not we wanted to run the survey because there has been so many kinds of surveys about remote learning and other things. But we thought it was important to have this for consistency. So it's just something to explore. How do we drive participation in the future for both the staff and the families? If anybody in the public is going to go and check the results, one thing to note is that the way the report is written by Panorama summarizes everything but what they call a favorite response, and then you see a percentage, what percentage of the responses were favorable. The way they calculate that percentage changed this year, and it changed in a way that I cannot explain. So one thing that I can say is that they are including the what I would call neutral responses. So if a typical question has a range from I agree with this sentiment versus I completely disagree with it, and the middle is neither agree or disagree. In the past, that neither agree or disagree didn't count as a favorable response, and now it seems that it counts, but not 1-to-1. So the percentage comes up with a number that I couldn't explain. So just keep that in mind. I normally when we analyze this, we don't pay attention to that favorable percentage. But if anybody's looking at that summary that just gives you the percentages, they're going to see a big difference with previous responses. That doesn't mean that the feelings or the responses themselves were considerably different. It's just the way that gets calculated. So that's just the data analytics part in me had to explain that. Yep. Go ahead.
Is there any way to get to use the math, to adjust for it to do the math with these numbers so that we can compare them from year to year?
Well, so like I said, speaking for myself, I ignore that favorable percentage number because it doesn't mean anything. What I look at is the category. So for example, a question might have 10% of people disagree and 1% strongly disagree. So to me, that's 11% of people are not okay with this statement, and everybody else is either lukewarm about it or positive about it. So adding up the categories is the math that we should be doing. And when we present this, and some of the comments that I'll make shortly, that's kind of what I did. But when we present this, we can do that. Just explain, hey, these are the categories, and this is how you add up the positive versus the negative. That I think is the way to look at it, and just simply ignore that favorable percentage thing that Panorama comes up with, because it's inconsistent at best. Hopefully that addresses what you meant. So a couple observations. First, on the staff side, it suffices to say, I think this is, in general, something that doesn't surprise anybody, but there's an overall positive perception of the administration, and that goes across the categories of questions we ask about responsiveness, the positive tone the administration sets, and then knowing what's going on in the school. There's been a slight progress. I know we've talked about this in the past, about how much, both on the staff and the family side, people understand what the board does. And the number one answer is, I don't know what the board does. So in the right now, only 38% people in this survey said, on the staff side, answered in a way that says, I don't know what the board does. That sounds like a lot, but last year was 50%. So, hey, somewhat, hopefully we're doing a better job of explaining the role of the board and whether or not we're focusing on the right things. There's not a lot of change in the other areas, which is the other thing that gave pause to think, what are, is there something that we should be keeping an eye on or doing differently to change for the better, some of these things. So there was no significant change on the morale areas. One thing worth highlighting is that there's a question about tools and technology, which I would assume is way more important now that, you know, we just came out of being remote and whatnot. 100% of people said, responded positively to that they think that they have the right tools to get the job done. And, you know, resources in general were positive answers. There's, again, not a lot of change on the climate side, positive relationship between teachers, still the same proportion as previous years. I think one worth highlighting, since we just had our diversity training and we're talking about how to include and ways of measuring that, is that whether students behave in ways that show respect to one another's diverse backgrounds. So, you know, just going back to your comment, if you add up the people that agree and strongly agree with that statement, that 62% of respondents would fit in that category. Only 15%, and that's nine respondents, disagreed, right? So that would say that there's a quarter, I guess, a quarter of the respondents that neither agree nor disagree. And that's my interpretation of that, is that might be somebody thinking, well, I'm not really sure if they're behaving in a way they respect each other. I can't say one way or the other. But the good news is that 62% are on the positive side of that curve. Obviously, something that, you know, we should strive to make sure that everybody feels that that's happening, but that's what the answers say. And then the mission question, and I call it the mission question. We don't actually ask, you know, are we accomplishing our mission? We actually state the mission. You know, does the school provide excellence for students of all backgrounds? And there was a slight increase in people that disagreed with the fact that we're covering that mission, but that proportion is not big anyways. The last thing I say about the staff, and I don't know how much time I have left, hopefully enough to talk about the family side, is there's a question that I don't know if, well, nobody takes both surveys and nobody notices that. We asked the same question. We flipped the coin on communication. So to the staff and the teachers, we ask, are you satisfied with the responsiveness of parents regarding communication with the parents? And then to the parents, we ask them, are you satisfied with the way teachers respond to you? So the good news is that the answers are consistent. So if we saw one side being very happy and the other one being very unhappy, that would be a problem. On both sides, close to 3/4 of the answers were positive, meaning that we're satisfied with the responsiveness on both sides. It's a much more interesting story once we see the comments, because we're used to seeing comments about communication and responsiveness and whatnot. But again, that's not something that we did for today, so stay tuned for next month. I did make a mention about, you know, should we look at questions that, you know, reducing the number of questions or doing other things to improve response rates. One thing that kind of just to look at a way of slicing this out was trying to figure out if are we asking too many questions that people are lukewarm to answer? Meaning, are we asking questions that are hard for somebody to gauge how they feel about them? And I guess the formal way of doing that is seeing how many of those had a large percentage of respondents responding in the middle answer, basically the neutral answer. And that was about a little more than a quarter of the questions. So 27% of the questions. So there's 49 questions in the survey. About 13 questions had answers where the neutral answer was more than 24% of the answers. So again, that's kind of a mathematical way of saying, do we need those questions, or are we asking the right question in a way that respondents can answer them? And the answer to that query might let us know whether we should keep those questions and change the survey to improve response rates. And again, trying to slice and dice this in some way that is helpful. Really quickly, the family. On the family side, similar observation that the normal proportions and the normal, I guess, the feelings about the questions that we repeat year over year seem to follow a similar pattern as previous years. There's an improvement in academic, on the academic portion, on the coordination of workload, which is something we always ask. It's always an issue. It's always something that people argue we should be changing. There's 95% approval of the administration, which is not surprising and consistent with previous years. Just like I said on the staff side, there's a slight improvement on people having an opinion about what the board is doing. So that's compared to, if you remember, we didn't run the family survey last year. So this is compared to 2019. There's a slightly lower number of people that said that they didn't know what the board did. Overall improvement in communications, you can see the numbers for that. Family support was an interesting one, which I think, it wasn't a big change, but 3/4 of the respondents say that they're at least slightly involved in fundraising and helping with the school. But the same percentage believe there's plenty of opportunity for them to do so. So nobody's saying, I want to help, but I don't know how. So everybody's saying, I'm helping at least a little bit. On the mission question, which is the same question that we asked to the staff, it was a slight increase on people approving that, so 80%. And there was a decrease in the negative ones. We asked a question about, are we doing enough to help multiple towns connect to each other? That was kind of split. There's 34% had no opinion about it. And I don't know if that might mean that we're more, the core towns are more represented on that than others. And I think, that's kind of general terms. Like, we can go into each one of these areas, but I think once we get a chance to go through the comments, we can probably see some more patterns. Like I said at the beginning, it's interesting to see how year over year the same proportions are there. And now we have to think about what that means. Does that mean that we should change what we're doing? Does that mean that that's actually good because things are not getting worse? Either way, we have now information that can help us dictate what we should focus on next, which is what we are not really included in this report because we haven't really sat down to think about that since we're just looking at that, at all these numbers hot off the press. I feel like that was more than the time I had, but I'll leave it at that. Any other comments? Anybody else that had a chance to, from the survey task force, that had a chance to look at the surveys? Anything I missed? If not, I'll back to you, Roger. And again, we'll come back next month with some discussion on the comments and a formal presentation.
All right. Thank you, Raul. And thank you for doing that analysis. I know that survey just closed Tuesday night, so that's a great turnaround. Look forward to the detailed report next month. With that, next up is committee reports, starting with governance.
Hello. Just to report, we did meet this month. We continue to work on strategic planning and meeting efficiency. We're also working on board recruitment, and we'll be meeting. Kristen has volunteered to help with that as well. on the board recruiting element. So those are our main priorities right now.
Questions for Sheila? Just put a quick plug in on board recruiting, since you mentioned it, that we are seeking board members, and especially board members that are not parents. Although first we seek high quality board members, but we're trying to increase our diversity and increase our diversity in regards to non-parent board members. So if you're interested in joining the board, please contact either Sheila or myself. Finance, Kristen.
Okay, we'll try sharing again, see if this works better. Everyone see that one? I can see it sharing. Great, thanks. Okay, so we're going to review March and April together this month. We had one in-person and one remote month. So the numbers are going to look fairly similar to the last time we discussed. On the income side, in total, we were just slightly off by $10,000. Grants and donations were down. That's timing, really. That's not anything to worry about. We obviously had quite a bit, and you'll see that on the next slide. Tuition came in higher. We did receive an update, and there was a correction included there. This isn't the last update that we'll get. There's still a possibility that that number will fluctuate when we get that next one for the full year. And on the others, nothing else material. Food services obviously is down as a result of the remote learning for part of the period, and student programs. And we had discussed some of this in the budget already too. So it's very consistent. On the expense side, the payroll taxes had some adjustments related to life insurance and the timing on the medical plan expenses. So that was a little bit lower. A negative is lower on the expenses, so we spent less. Professional development is timing. Instructional supplies and equipment is primarily due to the remote learning. Student programs, ditto. Food service, ditto. And the athletics is timing. And I believe we had some 4 kicks this month at credit that came through. So that was favorable for the 2 months. And other operating expenses were a little bit less. Facilities came in a little higher. We had some additional fees that came in, and that's primarily timing. Some of those charges we can't predict when they're going to come in, but they are layered in the budget throughout the year equally. And so in total on the expense line, we were $180,000 lower than the budget for expenses, and the two net resulted in an increase in the surplus for the 2-month period of $169,000 versus budget. So the surplus for the 2 months was $200,000. And I'm going to look at the year-to-date numbers, and then I'll take questions. So on a year-to-date basis, very similar story. Tuition is the same, but 4% greater than plan, again, due to the updates that we received during the year. Grants and donations, again, fabulous year. We were really on budget with that, all that effort that went into that. Annual giving also way ahead of budget this year. So very generous folks in the giving program. Miscellaneous income is on plan, food services and student programs and athletics, and of course, student transportation. All of those were impacted by the remote learning. And so tuition, total income year to date is really netting right on plan within 1%. So that's great. For salaries, which again, we had discussed earlier, is our most significant expense line item, is right on plan right now. We're not too far off. There are some adjustments that will true that up in the next couple of months, but we don't expect any big surprises there. Payroll and fringe, again, is slightly under due to some of those other items that I mentioned for the months. Professional development is timing, but we expect that that's going to probably be down in total for the year. Supplies, student programs, food, athletics, just as we had said, is really related to the remote learning. All of those savings that we had talked about for the 2 months were really in place all year as we were remote. Facilities costs, ditto. Utilities, also we had savings there. IT, obviously, we spent a little bit more there as a result of remote. That's the only one that really was inverse which is interesting, but a very important investment that we've made in IT. And then the other operating expenses, again, were also have been favorable on a year-to-date basis. So in total for the year, the expenses through the April time period have been lower than planned by $850,000 or 7%. And the surplus is $1.3 million, about $1 million over plan year to date. And then again, that is 3x that number. So very favorable results for the year as a result of the spend that we did not incur as a result of being remote. So no big surprises there for the period. Does anyone have any questions? No?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jess.
What happens to the extra money?
Well, we're looking at a building. So there's that cost that it will go into, as well as the other items in the budget that we were discussing, like the collective bargaining arrangement and all of the items associated with that, right? There was potential for a distribution as it relates to the collective bargaining agreement. So that will all be discussed over the next month or two when that task force gets together. So, but a lot of that will go into the general fund that will fund the building development and additional costs going forward. And all of the above. Any other questions?
Okay. Thank you, Leanna. All right. Thank you, Kristen and Leanna. Okay. Ben, development report.
Everybody hear me okay? So we met this month and had a good solid conversation about a opportunity for us to put together a larger campaign, I would say, in terms of fundraising. Now that we have line of sight into our buildings and into some major improvements that we're going to be doing to our facilities, we've been talking for a long time about, engaging into a true organized plan for that. So what we did was we had our meeting, talked through what we believed would be a good approach to that. And then we agreed also that we would need outside support to help with a few different things. Ellen did a great job of going out to the community, identifying potential consultants and different organizations that could help us put together a plan and create an opportunity for us to make a much bigger raise in our annual campaign. We met with two of them, had some interviews with them, spent about an hour with one, maybe 45 minutes with another. They walked us through where their experience was here in Massachusetts in terms of their engagements with schools our size and engagements with schools of our type. And they went through a lot of great things, a lot of great messages and some ideas about we had to think about. As we went through that, they, one returned their proposal and with a detailed report about what we could do. And both recommended a feasibility study. So the feasibility study would consist of just a review of where we're at, what we have for assets and abilities to tap into, and then create a plan for what we can do to engage with that donor pool. I think that was important. I thought it was very interesting conversations we had. I think Ellen, myself, and Maura had some good conversations and identified some great opportunities for us, I think. And so I think as we get the second proposal in, we'll make a decision. Actually, Ellen will make the decision on which one we'll go with some input probably from me and Maura. And I think that's going to be important to get that feasibility study, start to put together the campaign, and then a plan to execute against it. I think there was some also talk about, how do we get the board involved more? So each of us and what we can do either personally to make a donation or to use our professional networks to help with this. So I think over the next month or two, as we finalize this, we'll probably come with an official ask to the board members to help every way we can there with some defined requests. So just keep that in mind and start thinking about what you can do to help around there. Ellen's been pulling together kind of the ideas and the list of things that she's going through the construction projects to identify what we could use. And we talked a lot about what our budget allows us to do today. And then if we had more money, what else could we do? So bringing that into the design and thought process so we can put together a list and have goals to reach on that. So that's pretty much where we were in terms of the dev committee. So I think that's good progress towards what we believe is, a good next step for us now that we're emerging out of COVID and out of this area where people are starting to get stable lives and financial positions, to be able to give us an opportunity to tap into them and improve our school. So that's the report for this month.
Questions for Ben? Thank you very much, Ben. I'm looking forward to the campaign. Education Committee, Liz Saul.
Okay, I am hoping that my internet holds up and I'm able to get through this. As far as this past month goes, if you remember last board meeting, we were talking about the music programs at AMSA. And so the Education Committee did discuss extensively about the music programs and what we can possibly do with that regard. One of the big outcomes of it was that we are going to put together a survey at our upcoming meeting to go out to parents to really delve into what they're looking for in terms of a music program for AMSA. And one of the things, just as an FYI, is we'll be taking this back. We'll take the survey back to Ellen for review before we send it out. But we will really be looking at sort of like the short term and the long term in terms of what we could do if we had the space. That's obviously been our biggest challenge, but also, what other things are parents looking for in terms of the music program, and also what the level of interest is. I mean, there's obviously a group that has always been very vocal for the entire time that I've been here at AMSA. And it certainly is understandable. So we really want to sort of gauge what that level of interest is and start there and then build on it. But as I mentioned, we will be reviewing it with Ellen before we send it out to the parent group. So most likely it will probably at the beginning of the school year, because it may not make sense for parents to be over the summer. They just may not respond. Any questions? Also, just one other quick item. I did just want to thank and recognize our two student representatives on the Education Committee, Trey Fusillo, who award. He has been on the student rep on the Education Committee for the last 2 years. And also, I'd like to recognize Ali Silva, who has spent her senior year as a student rep on the Education Committee. She actually came in to discuss her experience at Synovian last year, and we managed to recruit her on the spot to join the Education Committee. So I do want to recognize the two of them. They're both heading off to school in the fall, and we are going to miss them, but they will stay in touch, and hopefully we'll be able to circle back with them and get their input once they have had a year or two of college experience. So that's it for Education Committee.
Questions for Liz? Liz, could you re-announce the first of your two student members?
Yes, it's Trey Fusillo. And the second one is Allison Silva.
Great. And you mentioned that Trey won an award in.
Yes, he won the Eagle Award.
Excellent.
Yep.
Well, I also thank them for their excellent service on the Education Committee. And with that, we are done with committee reports. We had no items flagged for discussion from public speak, so we can move on to meeting wrap up. So I had no items for review action items from previous board meeting. We had none. Sarah, could you give us a summary of any action items that we collected during the meeting?
I didn't get any action items.
Okay. Anybody else? I didn't note any myself. Meeting effectiveness. What is there any challenges or things that we wish to discuss, or things that we did well we should keep doing?
We did excellent on time tonight.
All you, Jess, all you.
I think we commented on this slightly at the beginning, but the way the budget was presented, I think was a good experiment, and I appreciate the effort that went into putting that together. So thanks, Kristen and Leanna. I think that was good.
I agree. I liked it. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much for that feedback.
I have one minor note for myself that I will add the attendance, call for attendance during the meeting opening. Other feedback? We'll note that we are planning starting in July to go to an assent agenda for votes. So we can talk about we can reintroduce that in the June meeting as to how that would work. So finally, collecting the special agenda items for the June meeting.
The two I have, Roger, were the parent rep vote and the survey results, the detailed survey results from the task force, survey task force.
Yes, we got those two already. Also, the June meeting is our annual meeting for our calendar, at which point we will be electing committee chairs for the Development, Education, and Governance Committee. Also, we'll be doing committee appointments for trustees, and the Education Committee is listed on our agenda as having an end of year report, and I believe the governance is planning to do the BOT self-assessment report in the June timeframe.
What was the one before that, Roger?
It's already listed on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Education Committee end of year report was the one just prior to that. Anything else to add for non-standard agenda? Great. So we've already done the summary of action items, which was none. We are ready to accept a motion to go into executive session to discuss the purchase or lease of real estate, as discussion in open session would be detrimental to our position. We will be inviting Ellen, Liana, Bob Baldwin. Who else? Ellen, other people to add?
Mike Naraki is here as well.
Okay, Mike Naraki.
I think that's it.
All right. So, looking for a motion.
So move.
Raul.
Second.
Second from Liz. Sarah, would you call the roll, please?
Ben Hamill,
Yes.
Jess Bowen. Jess Bowen.
Yes.
Yeah, Jill Schaefer,
Yes.
Kristen Carney,
Yes.
Liz Saul,
Yes.
Mara Webster,
Yes.
Nick Poirier,
Yes.
Raul Porce,
Yes.
Roger Jarrett,
Yes.
Sheila Kelly,
Yes.
Salmini Sampath.
Yes.
And with that, I'll take a motion. So we will convene at 8:40. Do I need a separate motion to adjourn the meeting, or is that
No, that's it.
sufficient? All right. So executive session at 8:40 p.m. You should have a separate link in your email to get there. If you have technical challenges, you can text me.